So about 2 years ago, I made a video on The Force Awakens where I chatted about the character Rey, and I asked the critical question, is she a Mary Sue? So now, 2 years later, after The Last Jedi finally hits theaters, I asked the critical question, is Rey still a Mary Sue? And the answer to that question is yes. Yeah, she is. Rey's definitely still a Mary Sue. I guess one thing that we'll have to, chat about in order to defend my conclusions is the fact that at the end of it all, Rey's overpowered status in the film series is never really explained in any meaningful way, or at all, really, now that I think about it. So there's no explanation to her overpowered stature. The unfortunate thing about Rey is there's not really much to chat about when it comes to The Last Jedi because she doesn't do much as far as like advancing the plot in the film. She's kind of just off in La La Land with Luke. Yeah, there's nothing to explain her overpowered nature at all. She still kind of curb stomps most of the stuff that comes her way. At one point, she has like a mock fight with Luke and somehow bests him. I'm not sure how that happens, but okay. There still aren't very many challenges that, not very many, none at all actually, now that I think about it again, that challenge Rey, that kind of force her to grow and reevaluate herself or become different. So there's nothing in the plot that still challenges her. So Rey's still overpowered, still nothing that changes her, and there's still no character arc to speak of that really puts Rey at one point in the film and shows how she's different at the end of it. So, considering all those different plot points, all those different factors, I have to say that, yeah, Rey's still Mary Sue. This film does not answer any questions. This film does not evolve her character in any particular way. So, yeah, that's it. So, with that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button and shoot. You know what? Yeah, this feels really unsatisfying. It feels really unsatisfying. So, what's a better way to make this video more interesting while still chatting about the fact that Rey is a Mary Sue? I think probably one of the best things that will make this video a lot more interesting is talking about, like, actual character depth and what you could do using the elements within the film to actually make this interesting or actually give Rey some level of depth. Because I actually think that there's a lot you could have done with the character if there wasn't any narrative of trying to create a strong and empowered female character. If there was something else to Rey, if there's some kind of character, if there's some semblance of a personality beyond being wide-eyed and kind of a jerk and whatnot, we might actually be able to see some kind of arc and see some kind of growth and change. So how about we do that? Rey is indeed still a Mary Sue, but let's kind of talk about what we could have done to make her a little bit better within this film. First of all, I think it would have gone a lot better if Rey actually got a little more screen time beyond just having a few snippet conversations with Luke and then her flying to save the day, kind of at the end of the movie. I actually think Rey would have actually done a lot better if she was actually trained in the Force a little bit, rather than Luke promising to give her 3 lessons and only giving her 2, which it's entirely possible that the 3rd lesson was cut out for time, and maybe the editor didn't realize that, but I don't know. So there's that. We could actually give her more screen time and actually focus on her as the protagonist of this film series. And we can actually train her so she actually has to struggle and grow and become different in order to overcome the things around her. And what else can we do? See, the thing is with Rey's character is I'm actually totally fine with her being really strong in the Force. And the reason why is because at this point I kind of figured out what the writers were going for. I could be wrong here, but I don't think I am. It seems to me that whoever wrote The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi or whatever, it seems to me that what they were trying to do was they were trying to scale Rey's power level. I know, it sounds like we're talking about Dragon Ball Z. But seriously, I think they're trying to scale Rey's power level equal to Kylo so they could skip the story beats of having to train Rey, so they could focus on doing other stories. So they tried to, they inputted some cheat codes, unlocked all of the special abilities, so they could kind of curb stomp through the game, so they could get to the more interesting points without having to slog through. I think that's what they were trying to do, because that's what seems to be the case. I could be wrong here, but I don't think I am. So, her overpowered stature in the film series would make more sense to me if that's what they were trying to do. I still don't think it was worth it, mostly because, all the stuff that they were trying to skip through I don't really think pay off very well, which I can talk about in another video about The Last Jedi overall. But this video is more specifically focusing on Rey. I think what would have done her character a lot better is, again, actually having to train her in the Force. And the thing is that I think would have been really interesting is, instead of trying to train Rey how to manipulate the Force, because she already, is just gifted in this ability, the training that Rey will get from Luke will be why she should be a Jedi rather than be a Sith. So when the film cuts to Rey, when she's learning about the Force, what's going to be interesting to us as an audience member is, instead of always making the assumption that the dark side is bad because they just do bad things and whatever, instead it will call into question what's the real difference between the light and the dark. And of course, people who are really into Star Wars, well, they already know, but I mean, for casual viewers, it'll be an interesting experience to stop and watch a Jedi actually lay out the philosophy and explain why they think that you should use the light side of the Force rather than the dark side of the Force. And I think one thing that would be interesting for Rey's character is having Kylo Ren explain why he would rather be on the dark side of the Force rather than the light side of the Force. So you have this one character arc actually being established here. You have Rey being torn in the middle between the dark and the light, Kylo Ren, Luke Skywalker. And they both have to plead their case to her as to why they think one side is better. Now, I can't really go into detail at the moment explaining what's good and what's bad, mostly because, I don't have a true understanding of both sides of the Force to really go into detail about that in terms of Star Wars lore. But in terms of, creating an interesting character, I can absolutely speak on that. And what this does is it not only makes the character Rey have to make a decision, but it makes the audience question which decision she's going to make. Because they're going to be able to see both sides of how Rey can go. Rey could go to the Kylo Ren side because they're really similar in the aspects that they feel abandoned by their parents. Rey literally, Kylo Ren figuratively. Or you can see Rey's going to the light side of the Force because she cares about her friend, her friend Finn, and she cares, at least in some capacity, to the Resistance. I don't really know why she cares, other than it seems like she's obligated to, but she cares about the Resistance for some reason. So you have a character that gets, can go either way. And because she's connected to Kylo Ren, because let's say we'll still have that story element in there, because she's still connected to Kylo Ren, we'll be able to see and hear those conversations, and we're going to understand. Here's the thing, this actually helped Kylo Ren's character a little bit more too, because Kylo Ren will be able to explain his backstory and why he feels the way he feels a little bit more than he did in the film. Instead of it being as ambiguous as it was for a lot of the time, he'll actually be having conversations with her because he's trying to pull her to his side. And again, because instead of Rey being trained on how to manipulate things and move objects, because she's just got this raw skill, she's going to be learning the philosophies and why she should be the good guy, why she should care about everyone. And Luke should explain, why the Force is very important. It's this energy field that connects us all, and preserving the energy field is a good thing because X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I'll have to research the Force and maybe I can pitch a good idea as to why that'd be the case. But like I said, for character development, we have a starting point. Someone who's unsure of which direction to go in the Force and why they should care. Starts from the beginning. And this sets up an arc to where we can go either or. You can go to the end of the arc where Rey chooses Kylo Ren, or at the end Rey chooses Luke. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I would go on creating her as to how she chooses Luke's side, which I'll get into in a second. But the point is, instead of having someone that exists in order to just hit story beats, because that's what it seems like, Rey just kind of goes from point A to point B because she's supposed to, rather than there's some compelling reason. Now we give her a reason to go from point A to point B. I think one thing, again, here's something I pitched in my old video 2 years ago, where I pitched that Rey should have a character flaw. And I say that I will accept that Rey is super powerful in the Force. I'll be okay with that, you know. Maybe she's the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. If that was the case, yeah, okay, I don't care. What bothers me again is there's no character flaws in Rey. There's nothing she needs to overcome. So I say let's give her this. Let's turn Rey into an attention seeker, right? Because I always feel, this is going to be really sexist, but I always feel if you're going to put a woman in a story, make her act like a woman. Because, to be honest, women are interesting creatures. Women do things that don't make a lot of sense to people, and that's okay. It tells for a good story. It makes for good stories. I say, you know, make her act like a girl. This lonely lady in the middle of nowhere, you know, who seeks attention from men around her. And that might be a little too deep or a little too heavy for Star Wars. That might be a little too real, but, I mean, it's a lot better than having nothing, I would imagine. So, Rey's an attention seeker. And what Rey's going to have to learn is that all the attention that she's seeking is not always going to be good attention. See, because Rey is an attention seeker, when Kylo and her starts connecting, instead of her being immediately, you know, thrown off and telling him, you know, go kick rocks, because she likes male attention, she's going to accept it coming in. So this is how it's going to open the door for her to allow Kylo Ren to slip in and even begin to challenge her light side of the Force. She's going to have an attachment to Luke, because he's going to be like a father she never had, just like with Han Solo. She's going to try to connect with Luke and create a bond with Luke, you know, a lot more tighter than what it was in this film. Because they really were hardly even acquaintances, really. There's not really much of any pathos or payoff to the fact that they knew each other. So, if I were writing this is how I would make Rey's character. She's a huge attention seeker. And this will spill off into her attention seeking with Finn, by the way, as well. So, she just wants a whole bunch of male attention because she never got it when she was younger, which is pretty consistent with a lot of young ladies. This is how her bond with Luke is gonna, you know, get tightened up, because you're gonna spend a lot of time together, and this is how it's gonna make her care about both her and Kylo Ren. So, what's gonna happen in the film is, Rey's gonna start thinking, as she grows stronger and gains more knowledge of the Force and why it's good and why you should be a good person. As Rey talks with Kylo Ren, she starts building up the arrogance to think that she can change him from the dark side. So this is how the natural flow will occur. Because I think one thing that this film suffers from is the fact that, it's very self-contained, and the fact that it occurs in about 36 hours. I assume it is about 36 hours, so like a day and a half. So if I was writing the movie, it would take place probably over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. I would stretch out time, so it was 3 or 4 weeks. And if I make a pitch video as to like how I would have made The Last Jedi, then I will explain why. But I think 3 or 4 weeks is good enough time to, you know, learn about the Force, chat, and talk to people, and at least in screen time, build up some kind of relationship with someone, so everything doesn't feel so kind of rushed and compacted. Despite the fact that this movie's like 2 hours and 30 minutes long, I think the runtime is, it still feels really rushed because everything is compressed into like 16 hours, or 36 hours or so, I don't know. So there's going to be a lot of time spent between Rey and Luke and Rey and Kylo. It's not just going to be, you know, Kylo says a lot of ambiguous things, and then she asks Luke a question, and then Luke says something ambiguous, and they got to figure out like where the truth is, somewhere in the middle. It's going to be straight up conversations. We're going to talk to each other. In the morning, Rey's going to be with Luke, talking to him. At night, she's going to be talking to Kylo Ren. And over time, she's going to start thinking, you know what, maybe Kylo Ren isn't that bad of a guy. I'm connected with his mind. I can see his mind. I can feel the goodness inside of him, right? So this is where she causes a little bit of friction with Luke, because she's going to say, go up to Luke and be like, you know, I've been chatting with Kylo Ren, you know, we're connected in the Force. Luke's going to be like, Rey's going to be like, nah, it's cool, man, like, I'm with you. I'm going to be a part of the light side. I'm going to bring Kylo Ren back. And Luke's going to be like, I don't really I don't really think that's a good idea. I don't really think this is gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. And Rey's gonna be like, nah, it's gonna be cool. I got this, okay, I got this. And Luke's gonna be like, Rey, listen to me. You're really powerful in the Force, okay? I cannot deny your strength in the Force. You're a lot better than what I was when I was your age. But there's some things that you're not good at. And you're not good at convincing people to do things that they don't want to do. I'm thoroughly convinced that Kylo Ren wants to be a bad guy. I don't think you're going to change his mind from that. And of course, again, Rey and her arrogance, now that, she thinks that she's, a Jedi, she's going to be like, I got this, Luke. Chill out. So what this does is this causes friction between Rey and her master, Luke. Where Rey has to learn that sometimes people do want to be evil. Let's make Kylo Ren a character that instead of him falling to the dark side, he chooses the dark side, okay? Which again, I can go into more detail if I were to repitch The Last Jedi, but we're focusing more on Rey. Let's say Kylo Ren is a character that wants to be evil. Rey's gonna have to come to terms with the fact that you can't change everyone with just the power of being good and optimism and hope, that sometimes some people just have to be cut down. That's going to be her lesson, right? So she's going to go, like same story beats in The Last Jedi. She's going to go try to, chat with Kylo Ren. She's going to go up to him. They go and they meet Snoke. And I guess I don't really want to spoil what I would reimagine to happen there. But, let's just say a lot of bad things happen. Rey, she fights Kylo Ren. Maybe this time Kylo Ren's not hurt, so it's a little more even. Luke comes in, he saves her, but he dies saving Rey, and then Rey has to escape from the ship. I don't know, something like that would occur. So now Rey's choices have gotten her master killed. I think that's the most important aspect in that summarization. Because Luke has to come rescue Rey from her stupid decision making, he ends up dying, and I think that would be a much better payoff than the way he died in the film. Him actually, being consistent with his character. And then Rey actually having to come face to face with her decision making, that because, she had just, not trusted Kylo Ren, if she had not tried to, if she wasn't as cocky as she was, her master wouldn't have died. So this is going to humble her, hopefully. She's going to see this and she's going to get humbled. She's going to lose to Snoke and Kylo Ren, finally she's going to be challenged by the plot. And the next film is going to set up her, resolving herself to do what she needs to do against Kylo Ren. Because at this point now, she's kind of, considered Kylo Ren a little bit of her friend, She's, if not her friend, and like her potential, bang buddy. Her potential boyfriend, I don't know. But she cares about Kylo Ren. That's the point. The point is, the friction that's going to occur is the fact that she ends up caring about Kylo Ren. And this is what's going to make her actually having to face him down a lot more difficult. Because at this point, there is really nothing compelling between Rey and Kylo Ren other than the fact that connecting them was a really good idea. I think it was a good idea. But the movie itself doesn't really play around with that idea as much as it could. And again, I think it's restrained into the fact that they only have all of 12 hours to have a conversation with each other. So because if I would have wrote this film, they would have had more of a relationship. They would have talked to each other more often. Not even just about the Force, but just kind of how they feel about the universe and how the world should be, or how the galaxy should be, to be more accurate. When she has to confront Kylo Ren for the third and final time in the next installment, we're going to have a character who's going to be humbled because, she's directly responsible for her master, rescuing her and dying for her sake. A character who understands what's good and true about the Force, why the Force is a good thing. She's going to be powerful enough to face Kylo Ren, so we don't have to go through the training arc anymore. And we're going to have an ideological battle between good and evil that may or may not be answered in this final confrontation. So a lot of things get set up for the final film. That is what I would have done for Rey's character. This is how I would have fixed her from her Mary Sue status. I would have looked at the fact that I can't redo The Force Awakens. If I was writing The Last Jedi, I would have said, you know what, let's go with it. Let's full steam ahead. Let's make her super powerful, but let's give her these attention-seeking qualities that calls into question why she should be a good person, why she should focus on the light side of the Force. That would be Rey's challenge. Rey's challenge in this film trilogy would be ideological rather than it being physical. Because again, if you're gonna put a female character, then she's gonna be a female. Physicality probably not the most reasonable way to go through problems as a woman. Usually, it's not. So it would be unreasonable, even though Rey is stupid powerful. It would still be unreasonable. So I would focus more on the emotional, ideological aspect of what is good and evil, or what is the light, what is the dark side of the Force, why is it good, why is it bad, and Rey actually having to choose between each side after each person has pleaded their case to her, trying to convince her to do one thing over the other. That's what I would have done. That's how I would have given her depth. Her Mary Sue status, again, does not come from the fact that she's overpowered in the Force. I could actually deal with that. I could accept it. The problem is the fact that there's no character arc. There's nothing, she doesn't change, she's not growing, she's not becoming a different character. And that makes her boring. I cannot explain how Rey was at the beginning of the film and how she's different at the end of the film. And that is the ultimate problem with being a Mary Sue. So, I think this is a much more satisfying video. I did kind of a similar thing I did about a couple years ago. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my thoughts on what I believe would make her a much better character. And if you want, I could absolutely pitch or retold The Last Jedi, because I think The Last Jedi had a lot of problems in terms of the narrative. I think there's a lot of issues in The Last Jedi. So I could repitch it. That's what I would like to do, maybe one day in the future. Explain what I would have done, how I would have made everything a lot better than what it was, or how I would have made the story a little bit more coherent. That's what so I can do that in the near future if you guys want, but that's the end of this video. So that being said, man, I sure hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button, and shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.